Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It is September 26th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and another range day. And it wasn't really surprising that we sold off from this point today. I mean, that's right at the 2,500 level again. And these century marks, it takes a while to work through these. We may even break through it just to see it sell off. And I mean, normally these are real emotional type areas for the market. And so normally when prices work into those areas, it takes them a little while. Prices will work back and forth. It'll test it as resistance. It'll test it as support a few times before it'll eventually either sell off or move forward again. And so it's not surprising that we had a range type day today. Uh, your real lows of the range are down at this level around 29 or 24.93, but you can see most of the turns came right across here, so that's where I kept it as the day progressed. You might have treated this like a failed break lower, but since these lows were right here and we went a little bit lower, we could have continued on down. We did get a break and a leg down. We're a long way away from the EMA there, so you really could argue for that one to be green. I didn't originally mark it, but you could really argue for that to be green. There's a higher low here. If this would have been a better signal bar, I would have liked this one too. Again, you could probably argue for it to be green, uh, but we closed a couple of ticks off that high there, and so it's just not a great signal bar with there being some resistance right across there already. And if you move this all the way to the right, I mean, you can see it a little better. But you can see how we've had a little bit of resistance right across that area right there. So that makes me a little bit leery of it. Even though it does look like a reversal pattern, we pushed right through, pulled back. You're better off to wait on that next attempt, and it came right there. And of course, it bounced right off the key entry point as well. It's a fairly large bar, but it's like an engulfing bar. It went lower and then turned and went out the other side. So when it broke above that other side, you could either have a buy stop there or you could drop a limit order and see if it'd come back a tick or two. Once it started going higher, I don't think I would allow it to come back because you see what happened here. You probably would have gotten stopped out. Um, so anyway, but I'm kind of jumping ahead there. Let's back up. Again, it's a range day, but let's start over here at the beginning of the day. And really, it was a real tight range early on. But you can see we're making higher lows and higher highs here. So we have a trend working up. And if you just drew your trend line um, off those first couple of swings there, you might have had this a little steeper at first. Um, and we did get a break here, but with this, we figure we're going to push for a new high on the second leg up. So I like that entry. It's right after this came right around. See what time this entry. It was around 7:30, so I was thinking it was more around 7:15 or so, but right around 7:30. So this got you in early, and you could have ridden this up. Um, there's actually another little shorter term trend line here. I don't have it on here, but you can see this shorter term trend line, and then we got a break and a new high, and then we tried to test it again, and then we sell off. And the reason I like this one is notice that new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, and I'm not going to go long right into those highs. You could, especially not being back to a key entry point after possibly having a break. This is in the overnight, so sometimes you can ignore those breaks. But even on this short term one, we already had a break and a new high, and so um, even though that's off the EMA, I'd prefer to see it back to the trend line, especially since we came off the upper side already. So, and that just doesn't happen. So I think you got to skip that one. Going long right into that 2,500, which is actually right there. So I like selling this on a failed second entry long, and mostly because your entry would have been one tick below that bar because this bar made the low the lowest low at the point. Your stop would still have to go above these two matching highs. But so there's only like 3 ticks there, so it's a very low risk type entry, risk to reward. And if you catch this, you can ride this all the way down, and all you risk was 3 or 4 ticks. So I like those kind of entries, especially if they're turning type points, and I think you have that there. You've got this larger channel with a break and a new high. That one's not completely a sure thing, but then you take the shorter term one, you got a break, and by that time you really got 2 legs up to a new high. So um, I like that one, and that's probably the trade of the day because you get to ride this all the way down. But anyway, it comes back and gives you a little breakout pull back short, and it really kind of confirms that trend line. You could really still count this as a second touch, but I still like it with that big bearish bar. Again, it's an engulfing bar. It went higher and then turns and goes out the other side. So you might let it break lower and drop a limit order in, but you might have got left behind too. So you could have just had your sell stop there, or you could have still put it below that bar, although that's a really big bar. Can't remember how many ticks are in that bar. Oh, there's only 6 ticks, so you could have gotten in that one when the 8-tick rule. Then you get one more attempt to go higher, and another little small bar. I like entering there. We haven't touched the low, and we're probably coming down here to test these lows at that point, and that's exactly where we end up heading. We actually make a new low here. This one's too close to the lows. Same thing here. You're right into those lows. You just don't want to enter there. Okay, I'm sorry, I had a little interruption there. I think we were talking about this final move down and just not being able to go short into that. So you could treat this like a little failed break lower, and we're a good ways away from the EMA, a fairly nice reversal type bar. So, and you could have actually let this one break higher and drop the limit order even further back to just to give yourself a little better entry. So, but yeah, you could have got a little better entry here, but it didn't matter. You could have just entered with a stop, and that was an easy. I mean, this is you're generally better off to wait on the higher low, which comes here, and we already talked about that one. It was back into this resistance because normally you don't move. You're going to take a couple of swings here, and a lot of times you'll get a lower high right down here, still a long way from the EMA, and that's generally your better entry. Because prices don't stay away from the EMA very long, especially on a range day. Now, when it gets to trending, that's a different story. But on a range day, you're just not going to stay away from the EMA very long. So, I like this entry, and a lot of times you will catch an important high or low of the day on these, and you can see, it's not a huge move. But on a range day, you still caught a major low, and you could have watched prices move maybe 94, 4 or 5 points. So, and that's pretty good when the whole day is only 7 or 8 points. So, I like that entry. Here's your better one, and again, it's an engulfing bar. It went lower and bounced right off the trend line and turned and goes right out the other side. We seem to get a lot of these engulfing bars lately. This bar is really too big to enter on a stop, and like I said earlier, I wouldn't try to enter letting this pull back when it kept coming this far, especially after it just came off the high, because you're probably coming back and you can just get a better entry. So if you didn't enter right in here on the one tick above this bar, or let it break higher and try to get in a little bit better, which I can't remember exactly. I know it broke higher and pulled back at least a tick, but I can't remember if it pulled back any more than that or not. So you might have to run replay to see exactly what kind of entry you could have got there. But you don't want to get too conservative. You just might let it break higher and drop your limit order right at the high rather than one tick above it like we usually enter. And that gives you, because you usually only need an extra tick or two to really get a good entry. So, but it just depends on the play. And then of course it comes back again, and you could really treat this as a double test of this level. We came back once, twice. That's a really nice bullish bar. It's a first entry, but you could treat it as a double test and a nice bullish bar. And it's the first break of this channel. I mean, really, this channel was not. You've got at least 3 touches there, and it looks real good on the top, but this looks more sideways than it does trending up, to be honest with you. So it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to make a new high. So with it being just a first entry, I only marked it green, but there's some reasons to like it, but I'm not crazy about it. So would have been a nice entry, but at the same time, you were better off to get in on one of these other entries, in my opinion. So, but that's what I saw today. And again, you know, with us hovering around this 2,500 level, it's probably going to, we may see a sell-off from here before we come back and test it again, or we could just keep testing a few times till we push through and then test it a few times on the other side. I mean, you could always eventually push through it and take off, but I don't see that happening. Generally, you're going to hover around both sides of that, looking to test it a few times before prices decide to move on. So we'll just have to see how it works out. But anyway, range day today, fairly clear trend up, fairly clear trend down, and another one back up. This one's maybe not as clear. And it really, this afternoon, it got really kind of quiet, to be honest. So, but I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.